my friends. Well, we have some very interesting things coming up on the calendar. This is Shabbat Shkalim, one of the very special Shabbatot leading up to Purim, and then from Purim, eventually on to Passover. Our Sedra this week is Vayakhel, Exodus 35:1 to 38:20. Next week, the Sedra will be Pekudei, which is the very last Sedra in the book of Exodus. So please be prepared to set out a Siyum celebration after we read the Sedra next week. It's just a happily traditional way to celebrate achievement in Torah study and to prepare for our next challenge. And speaking of preparation, don't forget that Purim Day is the 24th of March, almost here. Last week, I completed our class by indicating that a special announcement would be coming up this week. So here goes. As we finish the book of Exodus and have our Siyum next week, I will be concluding what I have been calling Torah Gems, our weekly conversation about the Sedra. Next week will be our concluding session, ending a span of sacred studies that began in 2015. I love studying with you. It was a privilege to know that many of you were regulars and some of you were even family members. Most of the feedback was quite positive. With special thanks here to my classmate, Rabbi Thomas Leibschutz, replied every single week. And major thanks to Ned Spector, who not only demanded that I begin this weekly teaching, but who showed me how to do it. Ned, you changed my life, my friend, and all for the good. I will never forget you. I'll have a bit more to say next week, but I need to forestall some questions right now. My health is a real challenge, a growing, troubling challenge. All of my many doctors believe that I need to respond to what is going on by reducing stress. I, frankly, wasn't given much choice. But hear this, I am not going away and I want to stay in contact with you. You are, trust me, each of you, very precious to me. All right, so let's begin. Throughout the Torah, fire is constantly present. Fire is present in the making of the golden calf. Aaron said that the people had brought gold and he had cast it into the fire, and the golden calf emerged intact, complete, from out of that fire. Fire is present in the prohibition of work on Shabbat. Fire is involved in the building of the Mishkan, the tabernacle. Moses encountered God in the presence of a burning bush, a bush that burned and was not consumed. Fire described the burning anger of God. Fire describes one of the two pillars that led the Israelites through the desert. A flaming torch illuminated the mysterious event of the covenant so-called between the pieces, Brit Bein HaBetarim. Fire is to be kept burning before the altar, and that command led mystics much later on to say that what God really wants most of us is a flaming fire of devotion. Two of Aaron's sons, Nadav and Avihu, offered a strange fire, Eish Zarah, to God, and they were burned alive. God appeared to Moses atop Mount Sinai in the form of a fire, and during Moses' final speech, he refers to the Torah itself as a fiery torch. Aviva Zornberg teaches that fire in the Torah was the source of both fear and fascination. Fire changes everything. It helps the artist pursue their craft, and sometimes it destroys what we treasure. But then again, staring into a fire helps us transcend the boundaries of this physical plane to unleash our souls. Under controlled circumstances, fire makes civilization possible. But fire doesn't require controlled circumstances to do its work. And that's how we got to Bezalel in our Sedra, the artistic genius who was chosen by God to design the tabernacle, Mishkan. Our Sedra states that Bezalel was endowed by God with a divine spirit of skill, ability, and knowledge in every manner of craft. He took the free will gifts brought by the Israelites, assembled a team of skilled craftsmen, and made the ark, the table, the menorah, the altar, the laver, and then the enclosure of the tabernacle itself. But where did the blueprints come from? How did Bezalel and his team know what needed to be known regarding shape, size, and what materials were to be used and where? Some of our teachers believe that Bezalel operated with a divinely inspired intuition. He knew. He just knew what had to go where. This intuition, no longer a surprise to us, was called by our teachers the fire of improvisation. Bezalel was driven back into himself to discover what Zornberg calls a visionary fire. Fire, fire, fire. But a unique midrash elevates this improvisation into something far more significant. That midrash is as follows. God told Moses to make a mishkan, a tabernacle. We are told that the Holy One showed Moses on high when he was up on Mount Sinai a red fire, a green fire, a black fire, a white fire. God then said to Moses, "Set it up according to the manner which you have seen here on the mountain. Make me another just like it. You must make in the world below that which exists in the world above. And when that happens," God concluded, "I will contract my presence so that I might dwell among you." The Zohar later speculates that the black fire, for example, is choshech, the dark matter, the dark energy that constitutes much of the universe. When all four fires were brought together, they constituted a complete image of what it was that God was commanding Bezalel. There are the blueprints. His task was not to innovate, but to duplicate a flaming image. And the final midrash offers yet another flame-tinged explanation. Bezalel's greatest skill was that he could assemble all of the letters used by God in creation. And with those letters, he could work out a blueprint somewhat similar, I think, to a jigsaw puzzle. When the letters fit, the design was complete. But how did Bezalel access those letters? Well, it seems, the Midrash says, that when Moses smashed the first set of the Ten Commandments, the letters flew off of the tablets in a burst of, you got it, flame. Gifted as he was, Bezalel cooled the flames and worked with the letters. Through these midrashim, the rabbis demonstrated that the act of building the Mishkan was an exact duplicate of God's undertaking to create creation. Bezalel was therefore reenacting God's role in his task of design and construction. Okay. So now we are left with two creators on earth. Two men who worked with flames. Two men who sought to bring the holy down from heaven. We had Aaron and we have Bezalel. Aaron embraced contingency by throwing the gold into the fire and not knowing or perhaps not even caring what would emerge. But Bezalel manipulated and fused the letters of creation, controlled the fire, and sought to bring into existence a sanctuary within which God could be present. A final note. When the tabernacle, I didn't make this up, when the tabernacle was completed, it was covered by day, what was called a cloud of God. But at night, what rested on the tabernacle? You got it. A pillar of fire. And there we have it. Bezalel and Aaron, both of them were creators. Both of them sought to touch the fringes of heaven. One did whatever he felt necessary to do, and the other crafted what he understood to be in imitation of God. They both lived with flames. And so do we. Have a great Shabbat. And by the way, don't do any creating on the Sabbath. Shabbat Shalom. See you next week, last week.